You don't remember falling asleep, but you wake to the sound of breath, not your own, someone else's. A soft snore, the rustle of straw, the weight of a blanket that smells faintly of mildew and smoke. There is no mattress, just a woven mat laid over packed dirt. Your limbs ache, though you haven't moved. Your back is stiff, your fingers numb from a night spent curled into yourself as if trying not to take up too much space in the small room you call home. The light creeping in from the paper-covered window is gray and watery. Morning is trying to begin, but it's not in a rush. Even the rooster sounds tired. You try to lift your head, and it throbs dully. Not illness, not injury, just hunger. The kind of hunger that sleeps next to you, that dreams with you. Quiet, patient, always waiting. There is a bowl near your feet, yesterday's rice, cold, stuck to the sides. You think about eating it. Then you think about saving it. And then you think about how thinking doesn't fill your stomach. Outside, the village yawns, a slow, slumping kind of life. Smoke rises in thin columns from cook fires. Somewhere in the distance, someone is already beating laundry against a rock, and you can hear a child crying like it's the morning bell. Your mother once told you the sun always rises, no matter how tired the people beneath it are. You're not sure if that was meant to be comforting. You sit up slowly, bones clicking, joints stiff from years of labor that started when you were too small to carry a bucket, but carried it anyway, because everyone did, because no one cared if your shoulders ached, not even the gods. And in this life, there are many gods. Most of them look like old men with scrolls. Some of them wear official robes. But the cruelest gods wear your father's face when he's drunk, or your teacher's face when your calligraphy slants, or your neighbor's face when he sees you resting and says, "Must be nice to be lazy." What if history erased you? Not because you did something wrong, but because you were ordinary, because you were quiet, because you never owned land, because you never wrote poems or led armies or married an emperor's cousin, because you were born in the wrong clothes, in the wrong place, with the wrong last name. Your name doesn't matter here, only your hands do, and how fast they move. There's a man, always a man, who collects taxes. He comes twice a year, sometimes more when the harvest fails. He smiles when you cry, because tears mean you have something left to lose. Your village is nestled in a valley between two hills that look like sleeping beasts. You've never climbed them. What would be the point? The world is wide, yes, but not for people like you. You are told to honor your parents, obey the elders, never speak above your station. The sage says, harmony is the root of all virtue. But harmony tastes a lot like silence, and silence tastes like ashes. You rise. Your knees complain, but softly. They've learned there's no point in screaming. You brush the dirt from your tunic. It doesn't help. It's the same tunic you wore yesterday, and the day before. You've patched it so many times it has more of your mother's stitches than original cloth. In the yard, a chicken eyes you with suspicion. You eye it back, wondering who'll be eaten first. A soft breeze carries the scent of wet earth and smoke and something faintly sweet, maybe plums from the northern trees, or maybe just your imagination. Your little sister is already up, dragging a bucket almost as big as her. She's 6, old enough to help, not yet old enough to complain. You hear your father's cough, deep, thick, and heavy. He hasn't worked since the injury. He walks with a limp now, or maybe he just pretends so he doesn't have to leave the mat. Your mother is stirring congee over the fire. Not much rice left, just enough to stretch. You'll eat after your brothers, that's the rule. Sons first, daughters after. You're the second daughter. You used to wonder why you weren't born a boy. Now you wonder why you were born at all. A swallow chirps overhead. You look up. It's building a nest beneath the roof beam. The thatch is falling apart, but the bird doesn't seem to mind. You envy it a little. Your neighbor is yelling again. Something about pigs, something about debt. His wife says nothing. She never does. Her silence is a shield, or maybe a scar. There's a man in the village who teaches boys to read. You passed him once, holding your little sister's hand. He said, "Girls shouldn't wander." You weren't wandering. You were just alive. And sometimes that's enough to make people angry. There's no war in your village, not this year. But the emperor is always at war, with rebels, with borders, with bandits, with famine, with heaven. The scroll says, "The Son of Heaven brings peace." But your peace is a rice bowl with no cracks, and a day when your back doesn't bleed. The elders talk about balance, yin and yang, the wheel of time. You don't know much about wheels, but this one doesn't seem to turn, just creak. You wonder if your children will live like this too. And then you feel guilty, because some people have no children. Some people have no rice. Some people are tied to a post in the village square because they dared to steal grain from the landlord's shed. You walk past that post every day. You don't look, but you remember. There are whispers about a new magistrate coming, young, strict, scholarly, the kind that quotes Confucius before breakfast, the kind who believes peasants need order more than mercy. You tie your sash. The knot is too tight, but that's how it stays put. Today, you'll weed a field that doesn't belong to you. You'll bow to a man who never learned your name. You'll smile when spoken to. You'll apologize when stepped on. And maybe, just maybe, you'll keep enough grain to survive the month. And if not, well, the river is always there. But the sky is wider now, pale, stretched like old cloth. The mist is lifting, but not in a hurry. The earth still wears its morning chill like a stubborn old coat. You breathe in, and it smells like wet leaves and soot and the damp promise of sweat to come. The path to the fields is crooked, worn down by centuries of tired feet. Yours, your mother's, and whoever came before her, walking the same line to the same land they never owned. You pass the well. The bucket's gone again. Probably stolen. Again. Everyone denies it. Everyone needs it. There's no one to tell. The local guard drinks more than he listens, and last time someone complained, he came back with a stick instead of a solution. You keep walking. You always do. The landlord's ox is in the road, chewing like it invented boredom. It stares at you like it owes you something. You wonder if it knows it's better fed than half the village. You wonder if the ox feels safe just because it belongs to a rich man. Maybe that's all safety is. Being owned by someone who's too powerful to lose. You reach the field just as the sun finds the edge of the hills, slipping gold onto everything, like it's trying to make this day look kinder than it really is. But the earth doesn't care. It is dry, cracked, thirsty, and you are the one who must beg it to grow. The tool in your hand is older than your memory. The wood is splintered, the blade dull. You don't remember the last time anyone had iron sharp enough to cut clean, so you dig slower, harder. The first blister comes before the first hour ends. Next to you, another peasant, a man twice your age, works in silence. His shoulders curve forward like the years are too heavy to lift. He's missing a finger. You don't ask why. There's always a reason. Sometimes it's the landlord. Sometimes it's the harvest. Sometimes it's just the wheel of life turning too fast. You keep your head down, eyes on the soil, hands in motion. There's no pay, not really. You're not a servant. You're not a slave. You're something in between. A free person whose life is borrowed. The landlord gets the grain. You get protection, which mostly means he promises not to take more unless the taxman comes, or the weather turns, or he has a son getting married. Then, of course, we all must sacrifice. You've learned how to listen without hearing, how to nod without agreeing, how to disappear while standing right there. A dragonfly lands near your hand, bright blue, too bright for this field. It hums, curious, then leaves. You wish you could follow it, but your shadow's tied to this land. By noon, the sun is high, and your tunic clings to your back. You steal a drink from the ditch. You shouldn't, it's not clean, but thirst wins the argument your mother raised you to have. In the distance, someone is shouting. A boy. Lost a goat, maybe? Or a sibling? It's hard to tell the difference some days. You try to remember the stories your grandmother told about the old dynasties, the golden emperors, the jade rabbit on the moon. She used to say, back then, the land was blessed. Crops grew without asking. Officials were kind. People sang at work. You're not sure if she believed that, or if she just needed you to believe something. Because here, no one sings while working. Not unless they're mad. You break to stretch your back. The man beside you doesn't stop. His hands move like they forgot how to rest. You envy that. From this hill, you can just make out the roof of the landlord's house. Tile, not thatch. Big windows, painted beams. Rumor says his wife wears silk and his daughter's feet are bound so tight she can't walk without help. You've never seen them. Only the steward with his long whip and short temper. He came once to inspect your village. Said the poor should be grateful. Labor builds the soul. Then rode off without stepping in the mud. That night someone spat in his shadow. Not his face, just his shadow, because that was all they could reach. You're not supposed to hate. Confucius said, anger poisons the heart, but Confucius also had servants. The afternoon fades, the sun droops, your arms shake, your feet burn. Still you work, because stopping is dangerous. If the steward comes and sees idle hands, there will be punishment. Not death, death would be merciful. Just punishment, shame, a lesson, always a lesson. The clouds gather, slow and swollen. You pray for rain. Not too much, just enough. But prayers are currency you ran out of long ago. A girl from another village arrives. She's selling steamed buns. You smell them before you see her. Warm, sweet, filled with bean paste. Luxury. A meal that wasn't scraped from a pot. You have no money, but you stare anyway. She notices, doesn't smile, doesn't stop. You think, maybe one day you'll have a bun again. Then you think, maybe thinking is what makes it worse. By dusk, your skin is coated in a thin crust of sweat and dust. Your throat is dry enough to creak. You pass the shrine on the way home. It's small.
barely a hut, with incense burned down to the stub. The statue inside is cracked. The god's face is worn away. You light a stick anyway. Not for the god, for your mother. You don't ask for anything. Just leave the smoke behind and hope it knows your name. The path back is quieter now. The chickens roosting, the children whispering, the pigs pretending to sleep. You pass the rice paddy. A frog croaks. The water shimmers. A dragonfly lands again. Maybe the same one. Maybe it remembered. At home, your sister is dozing in the doorway. Your father grunts hello without looking. The fire is low. The congee is thinner than this morning. Your mother stirs it slowly, as if thickness could be imagined. You eat in silence. You sleep in silence. The world forgets you quietly. But you remember everything. And tomorrow, you will rise again. Not because you want to, but because no one else will. But that is a story for tomorrow night.
The wind speaks first. Not loud, just a hush through the rafters, lifting the edge of the roof where the thatch is thinning. It sounds like someone sighing, someone old and tired and still not finished. You wake before the sun, again. Not because of duty, not even hunger, just habit, like breath, like pain, like remembering. Your bones feel older than you are, but you've learned not to argue with them. You move slowly, not from laziness, as your uncle once accused, but from knowing exactly how long the day will be. There's no point in hurrying toward hardship. Your sister stirs beside you, one hand still curled in sleep around a twig she must have picked up yesterday. She dreams of trees, you think, or escape. The room is colder than it should be. The fire's gone out again. No fuel. Not much left to burn. You used to have a stool. Now you have 3 legs and a story. You push open the door. Morning isn't ready yet. The sky is the color of boiled bones. Your breath curls in the air like a ghost that forgot where it was going. The village is still half asleep, but you know better. Behind every shutter, someone is already awake, watching, worrying, listening for footsteps that could mean taxmen or soldiers, or worse, neighbors with news. You walk to the stream with a basket and the stale ache of yesterday's work still folded into your muscles. The water is low again. There are frogs along the edge, unmoving. Smart creatures. They've learned that stillness is safer. You scrub your tunic anyway. It won't come clean. It hasn't in years. The fabric remembers too much. Mud, sweat, ashes, a tear when you slipped carrying your brother, blood that isn't yours. You look up and see the clouds beginning to gather, the wrong kind, not the kind that promise rain, the kind that hover like judgment. You whisper a small, selfish wish. Let it pass us by. Let it pass somewhere richer, somewhere braver, somewhere else. But the sky, like the emperor, doesn't take requests from peasants. You return home with wet sleeves and colder hands. Your mother is boiling roots for breakfast. There's no rice left, not even the husks. She doesn't speak, just nods. That's her way of saying, "We'll survive today, probably." You eat quickly. It tastes like bark and memory. The rooster doesn't crow. You think it's given up. Or maybe it finally realized what it was waking you up for. There's talk in the village, soft, slippery talk, about soldiers nearby, a rebellion, or maybe a bandit group, or maybe someone said no to the wrong official and now everything's on fire. You don't know what to believe. You only know what to fear. Your neighbor's boy, Ping, says he saw horses, big ones, with red tassels and polished spears. He says the men wore black armor and didn't smile. You ask if he made that up. He shrugs. Even if I did, they'll still come. You walk to the edge of the field. There's a tree there, crooked and half dead. No one knows how long it stood. Your grandfather used to sit beneath it and say, "Even broken things can last if they don't get noticed." Today, that feels like hope, or sarcasm. Your tool is where you left it yesterday, half buried in the soil like it too tried to escape. You dig with numb fingers. The earth is stubborn. It's always stubborn, like a child who refuses to grow. In the next plot, someone is arguing about borders, about a path through the field, about nothing, really. That's the danger with poverty. When you own nothing, even inches of dirt become worth fighting for. The steward arrives by mid-morning. He doesn't come often. Too dusty, too lowly, too many smells that remind him the empire has cracks. But today he comes, on a horse, of course. Its hooves chew up the road, spitting stones like insults. He doesn't look at you. He never does. He looks over you, through you, like your existence is a detail someone forgot to erase. He announces that the tax grain is due early this season. The granaries in the south are empty. There was a flood, or a fire, or a rat plague, or maybe just bad accounting. Does it matter? The demand is clear. More grain, sooner. No excuses, no exceptions. A woman kneels in protest, says her husband died last month. The steward frowns as if she'd said something impolite. He says, "Grief doesn't feed soldiers." He rides away. You keep your face still. Inside, something splits. Not loudly, just a quiet fracture behind your ribs. Later, you carry bundles of millet. Your sister walks beside you, balancing a jar on her head like it's tradition, though no one taught her. She's good at learning the hard way, like everyone else here. You pass the temple. Two men are repainting the entrance, covering old prayers with new ones. Your father used to say that paint doesn't change a building, just hides its sorrow. You glance inside. The offering bowl is empty. Even the gods are hungry. In the evening, you sit by the water and let your feet hang off the edge. Your mother says it's a waste of time. Your uncle says it's dangerous, snakes, curses, devils. But the silence here is gentle, and your reflection, though older and more tired, still belongs to you. For now. A boy walks past, limping. Someone hit him today. You don't ask why. You just offer him a plum from your sleeve. Small, half-ripe, the only soft thing you've had all day. He doesn't smile, but he nods. That's enough. You return home in the dark. Your sister's asleep again, her hand in yours. The fire is low. The sky is low. Everything is low, but still holding on. Your mother is stitching something. Her eyes squint in the dark. You ask what it is. She says, "A robe for your brother, if he gets chosen." Chosen? For the city, for tests, for service. A dream with rules you'll never touch. You ask what she'll make if he isn't chosen. She says, "Rags." You lie down. The straw pokes your back like questions you don't want to answer. Outside, the frogs sing. The wind forgets your name. Sleep comes slowly, but it comes. And tomorrow, there will be fields to dig, and roots to boil, and attacks to fear. But that...
The first sound you hear is the splatter of rain. Soft, deliberate, as if the sky is placing each drop by hand. It's not enough, not yet, but it's something. You lie still, listening. You almost convince yourself it's peaceful. Then your mother coughs. The sound cuts through the dark like a snapped twig. She tries to hold it in, out of habit, not to wake anyone, but it doesn't work. It never does. You open your eyes. The roof leaks in 2 places. The drops land in bowls you placed there last week. You thought they were temporary. You sit up, careful not to disturb your sister. Her feet twitch in her sleep. Running, probably. In dreams, she goes places, far, far from here. The room smells of damp wood, smoke, and old fabric. A toad has taken shelter in the corner. It doesn't move, just watches you with those shiny, wet eyes that understand more than they should. You move toward the door, 1 step at a time. You don't rush. Nothing here is urgent, unless it's bleeding. Outside, the world is gray and glistening. The rain kisses everything, the clay path, the chickens, the half-broken gate. You tilt your face upward and let it touch your skin. Cold, clean, or at least cleaner than the well water. You hope it rains harder, not because you love the rain, but because the field is dying. It's been a dry season. The landlord says the crops are your problem. The taxman says they're his. You wonder who the crops themselves belong to. No one, maybe. Or everyone but you. In the distance, you see someone setting up an altar. Red paper fluttering in the wet wind, incense sticks shielding a bowl of fruit already soaked. A prayer for fortune, probably. Or forgiveness. Or just enough rain. You think about praying too. And then you think about how tired the gods must be. So many mouths, so many empty bowls. Your sister wakes just before dawn. She complains her fingers hurt. You tell her that's a good sign. It means she's alive. She rolls her eyes. She learnt that from you. Your mother hands you a cloth bundle. Inside, millet cakes, thin as coin, hard as memory. You chew slowly, not for the taste, there isn't one, but to make it last. There's work to do. There's always work. But today, the field isn't where you're going. Today, the steward has summoned your family. There's a census being taken. Names, ages, labor capacity, deaths, births, livestock, grain, all written down by a scribe with ink that doesn't smudge and eyes that don't blink. You walk to the main hall with your mother, your sister, your younger brother trailing behind. Your father stays home. He says he's too sick. You don't argue. The steward doesn't care who shows up, as long as someone does. The hall is wide and newly swept, but the corners still smell of mold and boiled cabbage. The scribe doesn't look at you, just nods toward a list. Your mother speaks carefully, too carefully. She says your brother is strong. He can carry double. She says your sister helps at home. She says nothing about you. The steward interrupts her. He's looking at your brother. 13. Tall for his age. Too tall. The steward frowns, then smiles, the kind of smile that's sharper than a knife. He'll come with us, he says. 3 weeks' work, road maintenance, just until the rains pass. Your mother's face doesn't move, but her hands grip her sleeves so tightly the threads twist. You feel something cold settle in your stomach. Not anger, not yet. Just the knowledge that you can't stop this. The empire wants roads. The boy has legs. That's the equation. The scribe finishes his notes, dismisses you with a flick. Like ash. You walk back in silence. Your brother doesn't cry. Not in front of you. He just asks, "Will they feed me?" You say yes. You don't know if that's true, but you say it anyway. That night, your mother packs a small bag. A rice ball, a blanket, a wooden comb. She gives you a coin, one of the few left, with a hole in the middle. "Don't lose it," she says. He nods like a man going to war. The sky clears. The stars come out, indifferent and sharp. Your brother sleeps near the door, already half gone. Your mother lies awake. So do you. You want to believe he'll return stronger, with stories, with coin. But you've heard too many endings to trust beginnings. The rooster crows too early. Your sister kicks him. Your mother doesn't scold her. She just sighs. You walk your brother to the edge of the village. The others are already there, boys with thin arms and anxious faces. One tries to joke. No one laughs. The official overseeing the group looks bored. He has a whip on his belt, not because he expects trouble, but because people behave better when reminded. Your brother doesn't look back as they march. You do. The field feels emptier that day. You dig alone. Your arms burn. The wind stings your face with every breath, but you keep going. Because you have to. Because the millet doesn't plant itself. Because the steward will return. Because the world doesn't pause for grief. In the evening, your mother sets a bowl at your brother's place, out of habit or hope, or because removing it would make it real. You eat quietly. You lie down. You stare at the beams above, counting the cracks in the wood like prayers. Sleep comes later than usual. And tomorrow, the list will be longer, and the field will wait. And the empire will still not know your name. But that is a story for tomorrow night.
Your brother has been gone for 5 days. That's long enough for the silence to grow legs. Long enough for your mother to fold his blanket but not put it away. Long enough for your sister to stop asking where he went and start asking when he'll come back. You want to say something that sounds like comfort, but the truth is, boys leave, and sometimes only stories return. This morning the air is heavy, still, like something's waiting. The sky is smeared with soft gray, but no rain comes. Even the trees seem to hold their breath. You wash your face at the basin, using a rag that smells faintly of ash and old herbs. Your reflection wobbles in the water, thinner than last season. Your cheeks more hollow, but still you, mostly. Your mother hands you a bundle, dried greens, yesterday's rice, a tiny pinch of salt. She says, "Go, trade for eggs if you can." So you walk, down the same packed path, past the crooked tree and the stone where someone carved a name no one remembers. You pass the well, still shallow, still stubborn. An old man is sitting near it, carving a flute from bamboo. He doesn't speak, neither do you, but his knife moves with the rhythm of someone who's been ignored for decades and doesn't mind. At the market edge, you see the others, faces like yours, people who own nothing but time. They don't smile, but they nod, a kind of recognition. You're all here for scraps, leftovers, maybe luck. The woman who sells eggs is sharpening her tongue this morning. She tells you your rice is too dry, your salt too small, your face too tired. You ask for 2 eggs. She gives you 1, breaks the other on purpose, says it was cracked already. You don't argue. You've learned that pride is expensive and never feeds you. On your way back, a cart rolls past, covered in red cloth, drawn by 2 sleek oxen. Inside is someone important. You can tell by the silence that follows it. Even the dogs stop barking. You wonder what it's like to ride instead of walk, to be carried instead of dragged, to look down and not feel guilt. Later, you help your mother in the yard. You shell beans. You mend a mat. You scrape soot from the pot, collecting it for ink. Maybe your sister will learn her characters this year. Your uncle stops by, drunk again. He talks about his time in the militia, says he saw the Capitol once, says the palace roof glitters like fire, says everything there is made of gold and promises. You ask him what it smelled like. He says, fear. You sit under the awning with your sister as she braids dry grass into ropes. Her fingers are fast, clever. She tells you a joke about the magistrate's big nose. You laugh, not because it's funny, but because it's her. You hear footsteps, not loud, but quick, bare feet slapping earth. A boy from the edge of the village runs past, panting. He yells something, too fast to catch. But you know that run. It's the kind you use when you don't want to be the one who tells it, but you have no choice. You drop the rope and follow. Half the village gathers near the square. A wagon, 2 oxen, a cloth bundle. No one speaks at first. Then someone whispers. They brought the bodies back. A fever, they say, or maybe an injury, or maybe exhaustion. Road work, government labor, 1 pot of porridge between 30 boys. You step forward, not running, not panicking. You need to see. You need not to see. 3 bundles, all small. The steward from the road camp isn't here. Of course not. He's too busy making new lists. The village elder recites a blessing. His voice cracks. The sky stays dry. You search the bundles with your eyes. 1 is too short, 1 is too tall. Then you see it. The cloth your mother sewed, a green patch at the edge, a mended corner. You feel nothing at first, just the kind of quiet that turns the bones to dust. Your mother falls to her knees, not loud, not shaking, just folds like rice paper under rain. You help carry the body home. Your sister walks behind you, her braid unraveling. She doesn't notice. That night the house is full, not of people, but of presence. Your father says nothing. Your mother does not eat. The bowl is left full, untouched. You lie down, but your eyes do not close. You remember your brother's voice, not what he said, just how he said it, always with his head turned slightly, like he never believed the world was listening. You think about the coin your mother gave him. You wonder if someone took it. You wonder if he still had it, clutched tight in that bundle. You hope so. You stare at the beams above, the same cracks, the same silence. The world moves on. It always does. The rice still needs planting. The landlord still expects his share. The taxman is still on schedule. And grief doesn't stop the wind. It just changes the way you hear it. But tomorrow, you will rise again. Not because you're healed, but because the millet doesn't care. And that is a story for tomorrow night. The days after the burial feel longer than the days before. Grief, you find, is not loud, not always. It's quiet, like hunger, slow like dust. It lingers in the corners, behind the pots, under the floor mat, where your brother used to sit and sharpen sticks. No one speaks much anymore, not even your uncle. Even the chickens seem quieter, their feathers dulled by some understanding they can't explain. The next morning you rise early, but your limbs resist, as if your body knows before your mind that today will be the same as all the others, just heavier. You tie your sash, wash your face in silence, and step outside into a world that pretends nothing happened. The sun is already up, not bright, just present. It warms the ground a little, warms your skin, but not enough to reach inside. Your sister is awake, feeding the goats with more care than usual. She hums. It's not a happy tune, but it's steady. A way to keep her hands busy while her heart rearranges itself. Your mother doesn't cook that morning. Instead, she kneels before the small ancestral altar in the corner, lighting incense sticks with fingers that tremble. The flame takes longer than it should to catch, as if even the fire is reluctant. You kneel beside her, not saying anything. The smoke rises, thin, twisting. It smells of pine bark and dried fruit and something older, something like memory. She whispers your brother's name 3 times. You whisper it once. You both stay there until the incense burns itself out. By midday, the landlord's man returns. Of course he does. He doesn't offer condolences, just carries a scroll. A new tax has been levied, something about funding repairs to a river dam 3 provinces away. He says it like it's obvious, like rice will simply appear, like dead sons don't count if the records haven't been updated yet. Your mother doesn't argue. She just bows and closes the door after him. Then she sits down with her hands in her lap for so long you forget she's still awake. You go to the field. The millet sprouts are weak, some are yellowing. Not enough rain, not enough rest, not enough hope. You dig carefully, your fingers numb. At one point, you pause watching an earthworm twist away from your shadow. You envy it. Its silence, its depth, its escape. Nearby, someone else is coughing, a sharp, wet sound. You don't turn to look.
You already know how that story ends. Later, you carry bundles of dry grass to the edge of the village. There's a family there, strangers, newly arrived. They've come from the west, where the locusts were worse. Their clothes are thinner than yours. Their eyes are older. One of them, a boy about your age, gives you a half-smile. It doesn't reach his eyes, but it's the closest thing to kindness you've seen all day. You offer him a handful of millet husks, not enough to eat, just enough to steep in water, to trick the stomach. He bows, not deep, but sincere. You nod, and for a moment you feel something almost like warmth. You return home to find your sister asleep on the step, her head resting on the goat's back. The goat doesn't mind. In fact, it looks pleased, perhaps flattered. You almost smile. Inside, your mother is cooking again. A pot of congee, thin but fragrant. You sit beside her and stir slowly as she pinches in salt. She looks at you and says, "I dreamed of him last night." You nod. He said nothing, just stood in the doorway. That's all she says. That's all she needs to say. You eat in silence. Outside, a breeze picks up, dry, dusty. It rattles the bamboo chimes your grandfather carved long ago. They clink like bones, soft and hollow. Your uncle stops by with a jug of wine, says nothing, just leaves it on the table and walks away. It's the closest he'll come to morning. That night, your sister has trouble sleeping. She asks you if ghosts can visit. You say yes. She asks if they're scary. You pause, then shake your head. No, just quiet. She thinks about that, then closes her eyes. You lie on your mat staring at the ceiling again. The same spot, the same crack, the same nail bent sideways like a question. The congee settles in your stomach, warm but not filling. You trace a memory in your mind. Your brother chasing chickens with a stick, falling into a pile of straw, laughing like he didn't know yet how heavy the world was. You want to hold that sound, just for a moment. Outside, the frogs begin their low chorus. The crickets answer. You let your breath slow. The pain is still there, but it's softer now, more tired than sharp. And tomorrow, there will be weeds to pull, a dam to pay for, a pot to stir, and a quiet seat at the edge of the mat. But that is a story for tomorrow night.
The mornings are warmer now. Not kindly warm, not gentle like spring, but the kind that sticks to your skin and makes the sweat rise before you've moved a muscle. The kind of heat that doesn't ask permission, it just arrives. You rise before the sun, as always. Your sister is already up, grinding bean husks for animal feed. Her wrists work in rhythm, slow, steady, silent. She no longer asks about your brother. She no longer hums. Your mother has gone to speak with the neighbor again. They're pooling scraps this week, trying to trade up for vinegar or medicine or a rumor worth believing. You take the pail and head toward the fields. Your footsteps fall into the same dusty prints as yesterday, and the day before that, and all the others, folded behind you like dried leaves no one saved. The millet is growing, if just barely. You touch one stalk gently. It bends. You think about how something can stand, and still be weak. In the next plot, the Liu family is clearing brush. They've had 4 children, only 2 survived. The youngest, a boy with a mouth too sharp for his age, says to you, "My mother says the gods are punishing us." You don't respond. You've stopped trying to argue with people's explanations. Everyone needs something to blame. Otherwise, the weight just lands on your chest and stays. You dig until your hands blister again. Your palm has built up so many calluses that you can feel the layers like tree rings, each one a season of toil, of rain and rot, and orders barked from someone who never bent his own back. At midday, the tax collector returns. He doesn't dismount, doesn't remove his boots. He reads from a scroll about the emperor's generosity, then announces a new assessment for security contributions. Another payment, another reason, another silence. Your neighbor protests, just barely, says the last tax emptied their grain stores. The collector smiles thinly and says, "Then perhaps you ate too much." And then he rides away, kicking dust into your faces. You don't even wipe it off. It's not worth the gesture. That evening, the village elders gather near the shrine. Someone has brought wine, thin and bitter, but it burns nicely. You sit a little ways off, not invited, but not sent away. They speak in hushed voices about wolves to the north, about bandits crossing the river, about whether the empire has already forgotten you. One of them, an old farmer with only one eye, says, "The emperor lives in silk. We live in sweat. The difference is written in our backs." The others nod, but slowly. No one dares agree too loudly. You return home to find your sister asleep against the doorframe again. Her hands are black with bean powder. Her cheek rests against the wood like she's trying to listen for something underground. Your mother is stirring a thin soup. Tonight, it's turnip leaves and water. You eat slowly, pretending it's enough. She tells you she spoke to the herbalist, the one with the crooked teeth and kind eyes. He's leaving soon, says the roads are no longer safe. She bought dried mint from him for your brother's altar. She says it smells like memory. You think it smells like sorrow pretending to be sweet. Before bed, your sister shows you something, a rabbit, or what's left of one, trapped behind the grain bins, too slow to escape. She asks if you should cook it. You look at the fur, the tiny ribs under the skin, the stillness of its small limbs. You say, "No. Bury it." She doesn't ask why. You sleep with your back to the wall, the straw mat poking your ribs through the thin fabric of your tunic. Somewhere in the night, you hear thunder, a sound so deep it shakes the wind itself. You sit up, just for a moment. The air tastes like metal, like change. You don't trust it. In the morning, the sky is bruised, purple, yellow, strange, a bad color. You check the fields. The millet bends low, almost flat, the tips blackened by some blight you don't recognize. You don't speak. You just touch the dirt. It's dry beneath the surface, still thirsty after all the clouds. You return home. Your mother is stitching again, this time a bag, not a robe. You ask what for. She says, "Just in case." You don't ask in case of what. You already know. That night, no frogs sing, no crickets chirp. Even the wind forgets how to move. You lie on your side, staring at the wall, tracing the cracks in the clay with your eyes. Your sister is quiet beside you. Your mother's breathing is uneven.
Outside, the goats shift uneasily, hooves tapping like anxious thoughts. The night feels long. And tomorrow, the stalks will droop lower. The tax will still be owed. The bag will still need filling. But that is a story for tomorrow night.
You wake to silence. Not the peaceful kind. Not the hush of dawn or soft wind through trees. This silence is wrong. The animals are quiet. No bleating, no scratching, no birdsong. Even the air feels like it's holding its breath. Your mother is already standing, her body tense, listening. She doesn't speak. She doesn't need to. You rise slowly, brush the straw from your clothes, and step outside. The sky is a strange, bleached white, as if the sun changed its mind halfway through rising. Then you see the smoke, a thin, curling line to the north. Not a cooking fire, not a lantern. You smell it before you understand. Dry reeds and burning oil. Trouble. You don't run, not yet. Instead, you watch. Because out here, running too early gets you noticed, and running too late gets you buried. Your mother joins you. She says quietly, "It's from the river road. The road where the soldiers passed last spring, where your brother walked." Your stomach folds in on itself. By midday, word arrives. A traveler, fast-moving, dust-covered. No horse, no cart, just fear on two legs. He doesn't come to trade or talk. He comes to warn. Bandits. Too many to count. Burning as they go. Looking for food or coin. Or anything that looks like weakness. And to them, that's everything. The elders meet quickly. Too quickly. No plans, just panic dressed as discussion. There's no guard, no wall, no weapons beyond farming tools. One man suggests hiding in the hills. Another says, "Stay and bargain." No one says fight, not out loud. You return home with legs that no longer feel like your own. Your mother is already packing what little matters: a jar of dried rice, the comb, your father's old knife, the coin from the altar. Your sister holds the goat's rope with both hands. The goat chews, unconcerned. You pack a bundle. Small. Too small. You look around the house once more. You want to remember it, but also you want to forget it. The hunger, the silence, the slow, slow wearing down of everyone you love. You take one last look at the mat where your brother slept. Then you close the door behind you. The village moves like a single body now. Families pouring into the tree line, disappearing one by one. A silent migration. No crying, no songs. Just the sound of bare feet on dry soil. You travel fast. Not fast enough. By the time night falls, you've reached the base of the low hills. The air smells of pine and something else, something sour. You sleep in a thicket, no fire, just roots under your back and the ghost of dinner that never came. Your sister doesn't sleep. She keeps one hand on your arm all night,
like she's afraid even dreams might steal you next. You hear wolves howling, but they sound distant, smaller than your fear. Morning comes, but not with light, with fog. Thick, pale, wet. It clings to your clothes, your lashes, your breath. You trudge up the slope toward an abandoned hut, someone's winter shelter. Half a roof, a broken stool, but dry. You stay there the whole day. The goat eats bark. Your mother eats nothing. By dusk, others have arrived too, from your village and from others farther off. One woman is weeping softly. No one asks why. You already know the options. That night, an old man passes around a pouch of dry beans. You suck on one, not to eat, but to keep your mouth from tasting fear. A girl, younger than your sister, asks if the bandits will burn the temple. You don't answer, because they will. Because temples don't stop fire. Because even gods have to hide sometimes. In the morning, the smoke is closer. Your mother touches your shoulder and says, "We may have to keep moving." You don't ask where. You already know the answer. Just away. Later, you find a feather in the underbrush. Bright red. Fresh. You show your sister. She smiles for the first time in days. It's small. It means nothing. But you put it in your bundle anyway. A boy tries to steal the goat. You catch him. He's thin, scared, and fast. You don't hit him. You just say, "Not this one." He runs. And you almost want to let him go with it. But the goat, for now, is still yours. That night, you share rice with a stranger. He speaks with a South End accent. Says his village is gone, burned in one night. He says he used to be a teacher. Now he carries water for silence. You ask him what he taught. He says, loyalty, honor, patience. Then he laughs, but not the happy kind. You sleep under trees. Your sister curls against your side, the red feather tucked in her hair like something sacred. Your mother sleeps sitting up. She no longer bothers pretending it's temporary. The stars are visible tonight, unmoving, unfeeling. The moon watches everything and blesses nothing. And tomorrow, the wind might carry more smoke. The road might not lead home, because home may not even exist anymore. But that.
The smoke reaches you on the third morning. Not in stories, not in warnings, not in a whisper passed from child to child, but in the air itself. Thick, tangy, real. It stains your tongue and curls through your nose like burned rice husk. You stand beneath the twisted pines, looking back toward the valley. There is no village there anymore. Just a smudge. A gray smear where your world used to be. Your mother doesn't cry, not because she isn't grieving, but because she's beyond that. When you've buried a son and fled with nothing, there are no tears left. Just quiet, and movement, and endurance. You travel for hours that morning. Your sister clutches the goat's rope like it's the last sentence of a forgotten story. The red feather still rests in her hair, dirty now, bent at the tip, but still red, still hers. The others walk with you, a silent river of smoke-covered lives. Some carry sacks, others carry silence. You carry the bundle with the last of your rice and a knife you don't know how to use. No one speaks of returning, because there is nothing left to return to. By afternoon, you reach a wide road, packed earth lined with stones and old cart grooves. It's not safety, but it's a direction. You pass an abandoned checkpoint. Wooden gate half collapsed, banner torn. An imperial seal still hangs there, sun-faded and peeling. It says, "Peace through order." You almost laugh. Almost. But peace, you've learned, is a kind of forgetting, and order always depends on whose hands hold the brush. You follow the road east, toward the river, toward rumors, toward anything that isn't fire. That night, you camp near a dry creek bed. The dirt is cracked like old porcelain. Someone finds a tree with bitter fruit. Hard, sour, but edible. You chew it slowly, pretending it's more than it is. Your mother sits with her arms around your sister, her lips moving in a prayer too quiet to hear. You lie down beside the goat. You think about your home, not the house, but the feeling of it. The sound of the millstone, the way the sun hit the wall just before noon. Your brother's laugh, soft, reluctant, like he was always surprised by it. You hold those things gently in your mind, like eggs, like things that break. In the morning, the travelers split. Some head toward the river port. Others speak of a village further east where there's still rice, still roofs, still rules. Your mother chooses east. You don't ask why. You've stopped questioning her choices. She has nothing left but instinct. And instinct, at least, keeps you moving. The journey grows harder. The road cracks. Your feet blister. Your sister's cough returns, a dry rattle that stirs something deep in your ribs. You pass 2 more burned-out farmsteads. Chickens peck at ash. A single ox wanders the ruins, dragging a yoke with no cart. By the 5th day, the forest thins, and the hills open. And then, just before dusk, you see it. A village. Not large, not grand, but whole. Roofs unburned, lanterns swaying in the wind, even laughter, real laughter, drifting faintly through the air. You stop. So does everyone else. Because after days of smoke, this place feels like a lie. But it isn't. An elder meets you at the gate. He's short, bent-backed, eyes sharp as grain knives. He asks where you came from. No one answers directly. You just lower your eyes. Let your dirt speak for you. He nods, then gestures to the outer fields. You may stay there. Work the edges. Dig your own ditches.
Share what you grow. It's not kindness, but it's not cruelty either. And that feels like a miracle. You build a lean-to with reeds and old cloth. It leaks, but less than the open sky. Your mother begins to work again, weaving mats, trading salt for greens. Your sister feeds the goat with weeds, talks to it like it's listening. It might be. You wake early, sleep late, dig, wait, hope. It's not home, but it's something like breathing. You learn the rhythms of this new place. The merchant who cheats less if you call him uncle, the old woman who grows bitter melon but won't eat it herself, the boy who throws stones at birds but only misses on purpose. You don't make friends. Not really. Not yet. But you make space. One evening, after market, your mother brings back news. There's a man, a clerk, from the local magistrate's office. He's recruiting boys. Smart ones. Literate. For training. For service. You say nothing. She says, if your brother had lived. She doesn't finish. But you hear it anyway. If your brother had lived, he might have ridden his way out of fields, out of mud, out of hunger. You wonder if there is still time. You wonder if your name could still mean something. That night, you open the bundle your brother left behind. Just a scrap of fabric, worn thin. You find a character he scratched in the corner. Once. With ink made from soot and spit. One word. Endure. Wren. You run your thumb over it. It's still faint. Still there. The wind picks up outside. The goat shifts in its sleep. Your sister breathes deeply beside you. Your mother hums something low. Something wordless. And for the first time in many nights, you close your eyes, not in fear, but in rest. Tomorrow, you will rise again. You will dig. You will bow. You will read that one word again and again and again. And that is a story for tomorrow night. The character your brother wrote stays with you. You carry it in your memory now, not on paper, but inside your ribs, pressed into the softest part of you like a thumbprint in damp clay. Rin, endure. Each day in the new village teaches you what that word really means. It doesn't mean surviving a single storm. It means rebuilding after the storm has taken everything. It means bowing your head and sowing seed into land that isn't yours, under a sky that may not rain, for mouths that may still go hungry. Your lean-to becomes something closer to a shelter. You weave straw, patch holes, smooth the dirt floor. Your mother keeps working, cleaning, mending, trading, always trading. Her hands are thinner than before, her steps slower, but she keeps moving. She always moves. Your sister has begun helping the miller's wife. She's too small to lift the grindstone, but she sorts beans, sweeps the yard, feeds chickens. Sometimes she comes home with broken eggs, sometimes a joke. She still wears the red feather in her hair. You can't remember the last time she smiled without it. As for you, the fields wait. Always the fields. The villagers don't say much to you, but they let you work. They nod if you bow. They let you borrow a hoe, sometimes even share water. One boy, maybe a few years older than you, shows you where the soil is softer near the willows. Don't tell anyone, he says, with a crooked grin. It's where my father used to hide from his work. You don't laugh, but you remember. Some evenings you help boil water for the elder's kitchen. He doesn't ask you to, but he lets you. One night after supper, he gestures for you to sit beside him. He sharpens his knife, then points at your hands. Too soft, he says. You'll bleed before the season's over. You nod. You already have. Then he asks something unexpected. Can you read? You blink. You hesitate. Then you nod again, slowly. A little, you say. Your brother taught you, one stroke at a time. The elder grunts. He tells you the magistrate's clerk is still looking for boys to assist in record keeping. Grain counts, family registries, border updates. Nothing glamorous. Mostly ink, he says. And silence. Then he squints. Think you can sit still enough to hold a brush? You nod again. He shrugs. We'll see. That night, you lie awake for a long time. Not from fear, but from something more dangerous. Hope. It's a small thing, curled in your chest like a sleeping animal, but it's warm. You try not to disturb it. Not yet. The next week passes slowly. You continue in the fields. You dig, you bow, you carry. But when your hands blister, you think of ink instead of earth. You trace characters in your mind while your fingers hold tools. Your mother doesn't ask where your thoughts have gone, but she watches you differently now. One morning she hands you a scrap of cloth. Wrapped inside is your brother's old brush. The bristles are frayed, the handle cracked. But it fits your hand like it remembers you. That afternoon, you're sent to the magistrate's outpost. The walk is quiet, the path lined with dust and whispering grass. You're told not to speak unless asked, not to question, not to correct mistakes, only to copy them exactly. You bow low. Your palms sweat. Inside it smells of ink and dried oil, sandalwood and wax. A clerk in blue robes gestures to the bench. You kneel. He hands you a list, names, grain weights, tax amounts. He says, copy this. You do, one stroke at a time. Your brush shakes at first, but the motions return like echoes from your brother's lessons. You write the way he showed you, left to right, top to bottom. Never rush, never blot. When you finish, the clerk doesn't praise you. He simply says, again. And so you do it again and again. By the third sheet, your fingers ache more than they ever did from the hoe. But you don't stop. When the sun begins to dip, he dismisses you with a single nod. You'll return next week. You bow so low, your forehead touches the mat. On the way home, the wind shifts. You catch the scent of spring in the air, fate, hidden under dust, but there. When you return to your shelter, your sister is asleep with straw in her hair. Your mother is boiling water with mint. You sit beside her. She asks nothing. You offer no words. Instead, you hand her the paper, the sheet you kept. Not your best copy, but clean, neat, whole. She traces a character with her finger. Her eyes fill, not tears exactly, but something quieter. She sets it beside the altar, not as an offering, as proof. You lie down that night with your back against the packed earth wall. The sky above is clear. A few stars blink behind thin clouds. The goats rustle outside. A moth flutters near your face, then disappears. You close your eyes. The day is still with you. The brush, the ink, the paper that didn't rip. And deep inside, the word you carry grows brighter. Rin. Endure. But maybe now, not just survive. Maybe grow. And tomorrow, the ink will dry, the clerk will wait, the fields will call you still, but your hands may serve a different master. And that is a story for tomorrow night.
You return to the magistrate's outpost every 6th day. Not because it is easy, but because it is different. Your body still aches from labor. The kneeling, the ink, the stillness. It wears a different kind of fatigue. But you choose it. You choose the ink over the hoe. The silence of the hall over the shouting of wind in the fields. That is a kind of power. The clerk rarely speaks. He gestures, sometimes grunts. But he keeps handing you new lists, new records, new names that belong to people you'll never meet, unless they're taxed too little or too much, or vanish. You wonder about those names. The man with 8 sons and 1 ox. The widow with a grain debt larger than her hut. The boy listed as missing, crossed out with red ink. You wonder if anyone will ever cross out your name. You never ask. Questions are for people with extra rice. Your writing improves. Faster now, cleaner. The strokes find you, like muscle memory, but deeper. Your brother's voice lives in your hand. The elder watches you from time to time. Once, he even smiles. Your characters stand up straight, he says. You bow, even though your knees already ache. Back in the village, things settle. Not in comfort, just in routine. Your lean-to has walls now. Thin wood and patched cloth. Enough to block rain, not cold. The goat gave birth. 2 kids, wobbly-legged and stubborn. Your sister named them after characters she heard you reciting. She doesn't know what they mean, but says they sound like protection. Your mother sells cloth at the edge of the market. Her fingers work faster than her mouth, but her eyes are alert, always scanning, always calculating. She no longer mentions the past. Not the old house, not your brother, not the smoke. But some nights, when she thinks you're asleep, she traces the characters you've written in the dirt floor with her finger, over and over, as if memorizing them might keep time from swallowing you all. You meet others at the outpost. 2 boys, older, sharper. One speaks quickly, like his tongue is trying to outrun his thoughts. The other speaks rarely, but watches everything. You're not sure if you trust them, but you nod when they nod. That's how trust begins. The clerk tells you one day, there's a census coming. He doesn't explain. He doesn't need to. You already know what censuses are for. Counting heads, taxing rice, measuring loyalty. Sometimes, finding the names that don't belong. You're given new tasks. Carrying ledgers, recording births, even walking to nearby hamlets to gather reports. You travel further now. On foot, always, and always alone. Sometimes your feet blister. Sometimes you get lost. But you always return. One morning, a woman stops you on the road. She's old. Her back is bent like a bowstring. She points to your robes, still patched, still simple, and asks, "Are you the taxman?" You hesitate. Then you say, "I write what they tell me." She nods. She says, "Same as the wind, only carries what others throw." She gives you a dried plum. You bow. She walks away, barefoot and certain. You keep the plum in your satchel, not to eat, just to remind you. Back in the village, things shift. Slowly, quietly. The villagers begin to nod more often. They ask you to read things for them. Not just scrolls, but letters, notices, marriage records. Once a man hands you a torn contract and says, "I think I've been cheated." You read it. You explain it. You watch his mouth curl, not in anger, but relief, as if just knowing the weight of the chain makes it easier to carry. Another time, you teach your sister how to write her name. She holds the brush like a chick. Too soft, too cautious. But she tries. She writes one crooked character, then another. Then she grins, big, toothy, unapologetic. You write it beside hers. Same name, same strokes, steadier. She compares them, shrugs, says, "Mine has more spirit." She's not wrong. That night she asks if your brother ever wrote poems. You say, yes. You lie. But the truth is, he could have. And maybe that's close enough. The season begins to change. You smell it before you see it. Damp soil, green shoots, longer shadows. Spring, almost. The river swells with meltwater. The markets buzz again. You help record trade for the outpost. Bundles of garlic, salted fish, baskets of eggs, and 3 ducks and a debt. You notice who pays on time, who doesn't. The clerk says, "People lie more in spring." You ask why. He shrugs. Hope makes them careless. One afternoon, you spot a familiar face near the merchant stalls. A boy, from your old village. Thinner now, eyes harder. But you recognize him. He recognizes you. He doesn't wave, just lifts 2 fingers to his brow. A sign. You don't know what it means, but you return it. That night, you sit with your mother near the stove. She's spinning thread. You're copying names. She says, "You look like your father when you write. You never knew your father well." But that, somehow, makes it matter more. Your sister falls asleep against your arm. The baby goats snore like tired drums. Outside, the wind changes direction. And inside, you feel something loosen. Like a thread pulled from a knot. Like a small piece of fear finally stepping aside. You know hardship is still ahead. That the taxes will never end. That war could sweep in again like dust across the hills. But tonight, your name is still yours. Your hands are steady. Your roof is holding. And your brush is full of words no one can take. And tomorrow, there will be lists to write, new ink to grind, and maybe, just maybe, a poem. But that is a story for tomorrow night.
The rains come early this year. Not in storms, not yet, but in a slow, steady whisper that begins in the night and doesn't stop for 3 days. You hear it on the roof before you see it. A soft tapping at first, then louder, then everywhere, a chorus of wet on cloth, mud, wood, and skin. You lie awake in the dark, counting drops. Your sister curls beside you under the patched blanket, and even the baby goats seem content to doze through the noise. Your mother doesn't complain. She only sets out the old jars to catch water, listens to the leaks, and hums softly while she works. The rain means life, but it also means rot, mold, fever. The village slows. The streets fill with sludge. People walk with their heads down, baskets wrapped in oilcloth, and the smoke from the hearths hangs low in the air, unwilling to rise. Still, you go to the outpost. Your scrolls are dry, tucked carefully into a sleeve. You walk carefully past puddles that swallow sandals and children's laughter. A boy offers to sell you boiled yam from a cart covered in tarp. You give him a coin and take none. His mother bows. At the magistrate's office, the air smells of wet parchment and aging ink. You unroll ledgers, you count taxes, and you mark the names of families who'd fled, gone in the night, without a word or forwarding direction. The clerk says nothing about it, just makes a red mark beside each name and moves on. You copy them, even though your hands tremble slightly when you do. One of them was your neighbor once, the one who gave you turnip soup when your brother died, the one with the boy who never spoke. Gone now. Just a mark. Back in the village, the mud creeps higher. The river overflows in places. A few homes, the lowest ones, take water straight through their doors. You and your mother help lay stones along the path. No one tells you to. It just needs doing. Your sister catches fever. It begins with a cough, then sweat, then silence. She doesn't cry. She just sleeps and dreams too deeply. You feed her broth mixed with mint and bean leaf. You cool her head with cloth soaked in rainwater. You whisper words you don't even understand anymore. Words your mother used to say when your brother was sick. Your mother says little now. Her hands move constantly, boiling herbs, drying clothes, wringing her apron. She's fighting the river with her fingers. You fight it with your breath. After 4 days, your sister sits up, pale, blinking, but smiling. She asks if the goats missed her. You tell her, yes, they did. That night, the rain stops. The silence feels louder than the storm. You step outside and look up. The sky is torn open, stars blinking through ragged clouds like small, persistent eyes. The air smells like wet earth and crushed weeds. You breathe it in like it's the first time you've ever truly breathed. The next day, the clerk assigns you to help inspect damaged homes. He hands you a slate board and tells you, write clearly and don't believe everything people say. You visit 6 homes. One woman insists the water reached her roof. You see the mark, it barely touched her doorframe. But she weeps and shows you a broken stool as proof. You don't argue. You just write it down. Another family offers you a sweet cake to right fewer damages. You decline, not because of principle, but because you know they need that cake more than you do. By dusk, your legs ache from wading through knee-deep mud. Your fingers are cold and covered in smudged characters. You pass the boy who sold you yam last week. He smiles and hands you a roasted root. You accept it this time and bow. He grins like he's won a prize. Back at the outpost, the clerk skims your slate and says, "You write like you believe people." You say nothing. He snorts. That'll fade. Maybe it will. But not yet. Back home, your sister is upright again, brushing the goats and humming badly remembered songs. Your mother is asleep early for once, curled like a comma beside the fire. You sit outside the hut, watching smoke curl toward the sky. A man from the village passes and nods to you. You nod back. Then he says, "You write the lists, don't you?" You nod again. He scratches his beard, then shrugs. "Well," he says, "write this down in your heart then. When it rains too long, the roots don't grow, but neither do the weeds." You don't quite know what it means, but you repeat it softly to yourself anyway. The next day, the sun returns, and it's different this time. Not gentle, it's sharp, hot, too bright against the flooded fields. The mud steams, the children squint, the dogs stretch and blink like they forgot how to see light. Your work returns to the ledgers. This time there are new entries, requests for seed, for roof tiles, for permission to move. You're told to track them all. Write clearly. Ink doesn't fix a roof, but it decides who gets the next one. One morning, a sealed letter arrives from the county seat. The seal is red wax pressed with a jade ring. The clerk reads it, frowns, then hands it to you. You break the seal carefully. Inside, there is a list, a transfer of goods, an increase in tax, a conscription order, 2 young men required for road work. The clerk says, "Post it in the market." You do. You nail it to the beam beside the grain scales. People gather. They read. Some stare. One spits, but no one protests. They never do. The next day, 2 boys are chosen. One is the fast-talking scribe from the outpost. The other is the boy with the yam cart. He doesn't cry. He just hands his cart to his mother, ties on his belt, and walks off with the others. You don't know what to say, so you bow. He bows back, like it's just another trade. That night, you try to write something else. Not a ledger, not a name, just something. You dip the brush, you pause, and then, slowly, you write, "The root drinks what it can. The branch bears what it must. But the leaf is always last to know the storm." You don't know if it's a poem, or a memory, or just breath made visible. But you fold the paper, place it in the bundle with your brother's old brush, and sleep beside it. Because tomorrow there will be more names, more orders, more boys who don't return. But that is a story for tomorrow night.
The rains come early this year. Not in storms, not yet, but in a slow, steady whisper that begins in the night and doesn't stop for 3 days. You hear it on the roof before you see it. A soft tapping at first, then louder, then everywhere a chorus of wet on cloth, mud, wood, and skin. You lie awake in the dark, counting drops. Your sister curls beside you under the patched blanket, and even the baby goats seem content to doze through the noise. Your mother doesn't complain. She only sets out the old jars to catch water, listens to the leaks, and hums softly while she works. The rain means life, but it also means rot, mold, fever. The village slows. The streets fill with sludge. People walk with their heads down, baskets wrapped in oilcloth, and the smoke from the hearths hangs low in the air, unwilling to rise. Still, you go to the outpost. Your scrolls are dry, tucked carefully into a sleeve. You walk carefully, past puddles that swallow sandals and children's laughter. A boy offers you to sell you boiled yam from a cart covered in tarp. You give him a coin and take none. His mother bows. At the magistrate's office, the air smells of wet parchment and aging ink. You unroll ledgers. You count taxes. You mark the names of families who fled,
gone in the night, without a word or a forwarding direction. The clerk says nothing about it, just makes a red mark beside each name and moves on. You copy them, even though your hands tremble slightly when you do. One of them was your neighbor once, the one who gave you turnip soup when your brother died, the one with the boy who never spoke. Gone now, just a mark. Back in the village, the mud creeps higher, the river overflows in places. A few homes, the lowest ones, take water straight through their doors. You and your mother help lay stones along the path. No one tells you to, it just needs doing. Your sister catches fever. It begins with a cough, then sweat, then silence. She doesn't cry, she just sleeps and dreams too deeply. You feed her broth mixed with mint and bean leaf. You cool her head with cloth soaked in rainwater. You whisper words you don't even understand anymore, words your mother used to say when your brother was sick. Your mother says little now. Her hands move constantly, boiling herbs, drying clothes, wringing her apron. She's fighting the river with her fingers. You fight it with your breath. After 4 days, your sister sits up, pale, blinking, but smiling. She asks if the goats missed her. You tell her yes, they did. That night, the rain stops. The silence feels louder than the storm. You step outside and look up. The sky is torn open, stars blinking through ragged clouds like small, persistent eyes. The air smells like wet earth and crushed weeds. You breathe it in like it's the first time you've ever truly breathed. The next day, the clerk assigns you to help inspect damaged homes. He hands you a slate board and tells you, write clearly and don't believe everything people say. You visit 6 homes. One woman insists the water reached her roof. You see the mark. It barely touched her door frame. But she weeps and shows you a broken stool as proof. You don't argue. You just write it down. Another family offers you a sweet cake to write fewer damages. You decline. Not because of principle, but because you know they need that cake more than you do. By dusk, your legs ache from wading through knee-deep mud. Your fingers are cold and covered in smudged characters. You pass the boy who sold you yam last week. He smiles and hands you a roasted root. You accept it this time and bow. He grins like he's won a prize. Back at the outpost, the clerk skims your slate and says, "You write like you believe people." You say nothing. He snorts, "That'll fade." Maybe it will. But not yet. Back home, your sister is upright again, brushing the goats and humming badly remembered songs. Your mother is asleep early for once, curled like a comma beside the fire. You sit outside the hut, watching smoke curl toward the sky. A man from the village passes and nods to you. You nod back. Then he says, "You write the lists, don't you?" You nod again. He scratches his beard, then shrugs. "Well," he says, "write this down in your heart then. When it rains too long, the roots don't grow, but neither do the weeds." You don't quite know what it means, but you repeat it softly to yourself anyway. The next day, the sun returns, and it's different this time. Not gentle, it's sharp, hot, too bright against the flooded fields. The mud steams, the children squint, and the dogs stretch and blink like they forgot how to see light. Your work returns to the ledgers. This time, there are new entries, requests for seed, for roof tiles, for permission to move. You're told to track them all, write clearly. Ink doesn't fix a roof, but it decides who gets the next one.
One morning, a sealed letter arrives from the county seat. The seal is red wax, pressed with a jade ring. The clerk reads it, frowns, then hands it to you. You break the seal carefully. Inside, there is a list, a transfer of goods, an increase in tax, a conscription order, 2 young men required for road work. The clerk says, post it in the market. You do. You nail it to the beam beside the grain scales. People gather, they read, some stare, one spits, but no one protests. They never do. The next day, 2 boys are chosen. One is the fast-talking scribe from the outpost. The other is the boy with the yam cart. He doesn't cry. He just hands his cart to his mother, ties on his belt, and walks off with the others. You don't know what to say, so you bow. He bows back, like it's just another trade. That night, you try to write something else, not a ledger, not a name, just something. You dip the brush, you pause, and then slowly you write, the root drinks what it can, the branch bears what it must, but the leaf is always the last to know the storm. You don't know if it's a poem, or a memory, or just breath made visible, but you fold the paper, place it in the bundle with your brother's old brush, and sleep beside it. Because tomorrow, there will be more names, more orders, more boys who don't return. But that is a story for tomorrow.
The scroll beneath your blanket grows soft with time. You take it out at night, when the goats are still and your sister's breathing settles into rhythm. You trace the 2 characters over and over. Qinxie, diligent learning. You don't know exactly what you're learning, only that you are. That the person who left for the county seat is not the one who came back. You hold your brush differently now. Not tighter, not looser, just more like you mean it. At the outpost, the clerk notices. He grunts, hands you more difficult work, copying land transfer claims, temple requests, death reports. He doesn't explain them. He doesn't need to. A request for burial cloth. A name struck through in red, with a quiet note, drowned during tax season. Some names are just names. Others press on your chest long after you've written them. You ask once, shouldn't we keep more records of the deaths? The clerk barely glances up. Why? The dead don't owe taxes. You never ask again. That night, your mother says your handwriting is too neat to stay in a village like this. You smile, but you know what she means. Neat writing is dangerous. It can be seen, noticed, sent elsewhere. And elsewhere rarely comes with return journeys. Your sister, meanwhile, is growing fast. Her laughter returns before her height does. She names the goats after famous generals she hears about in market gossip. One she calls Storm Belly. Another, Emperor Nibbles. She makes up stories for them, tells you how they'll one day lead an army of livestock into the mountains and bring back gold and peaches. You ask, and what will I be? She shrugs. You'll write their history, of course. You pretend not to feel the warmth behind your eyes. One morning, the village holds a festival. Not for harvest that's months away, but for survival. It's a simple celebration, red paper, borrowed drums, roasted tubers, and bad wine. You help hang lanterns made from hollowed gourds. You copy a poem to paste on the gate. The rice bends,
not breaks. The reed bows, not falls. We live. The villagers don't comment on your words, but no one removes them either. That evening, you share warm turnip stew with your mother and sister. A neighbor offers sweet bean cakes. You trade a blessing scroll in exchange. For a few hours, no one speaks of taxes or floods or illness. Children play, old men sing. Even the clerk comes, half drunk, half smiling. He tells you, "You know, once I wanted to be a scholar. Passed the first exam. Then the second came, and my father died. And the fields didn't plant themselves." You don't know what to say. He doesn't wait for a reply, just drinks more wine and hums a song too old to name. The next morning, you're back at your desk. The magistrate has issued new quotas. Every household must provide labor or coin. No exceptions. You write the names, watch the numbers tighten. A father comes to beg. He has 5 daughters, no sons, a twisted foot. You want to help, but your brush won't argue. Your brush obeys. That night, you sit by the fire. Your mother rubs her hands, says nothing. Your sister is asleep with one arm around storm belly. You take out your scroll again. But tonight, you don't write anything. You just stare at the paper, at your own name. Still small, still smudged. Still yours, until the wind outside rises and your candle flickers and your breath slows to match the silence. And in that moment, that hush between days, you understand something quiet and terrible. You are no longer a peasant who writes. You are a writer who still pretends to be a peasant. And that is a story for tomorrow night.
You keep pretending, because that's what survival is. Pretending the hunger isn't sharp. Pretending the brush is just a tool. Pretending your words don't carry weight, or notice, or risk. You keep pretending you are still small enough to be ignored. But the ink has already changed you. At the outpost, your ledgers are no longer double-checked. The clerk lets you seal scrolls now, with wax and stamp. He says, "You've got the hand of a man who doesn't make mistakes." You want to say, "I've made many," but you just bow. You begin handling complaints from the village, disputes over borders, sickness in the well water, a pig that wandered into a millet patch and refused to leave. You write them all in tidy characters. One day, a man asks you to rewrite his marriage certificate. His wife is dead now. He wants the paper changed so it says she died peacefully. Not truthfully, just peacefully. You do it, because sometimes peace is more important than truth. Your sister asks you to teach her more writing. She holds the brush better now, fingers steadier, eyes focused. She copies her name, then her mother's, then yours. Then she asks, "What does our name mean?" You pause. You don't actually know. You say the first thing that comes to you. It means, "We stayed." She seems satisfied with that. So are you. Your mother is quieter these days. Not sick, not old, just worn thin.
like rice paper that's been folded too many times. She still works, still trades, still checks prices like she's solving an equation no one else sees. But sometimes she looks out at the fields, like she's waiting for someone who never arrives. You never ask who. You are asked to travel again. This time north, to deliver a census draft to a minor noble's estate. It's farther than before. You walk alone under skies that stretch so wide they seem to press down instead of open up. You pass a soldier checkpoint. They ask you for your purpose. You show the seal, bow deeply. They let you through. But one soldier watches you go, longer than necessary. You feel his eyes on your back for a mile. At the estate, the noble is not what you expect. He's young, polished, too clean to be real. He barely looks at you as he takes the scroll, breaks the seal, and skims it. He says, "You have neat hands." You say nothing. He says, "Neat hands make dangerous men." Still, you say nothing. When he dismisses you, he gives you a copper coin. It's more than most give, but it feels heavy in your sleeve. On the way back, you sleep in a field near a ruined shrine. There are carvings on the stone, worn down, half erased. You trace one with your finger. A bird, wings outstretched, head missing. It could have been flying or falling. The next morning, you eat dry rice and begin the walk home. You pass a farm where children are burying something. You don't ask what. You keep walking. When you return, your mother is waiting. She looks relieved in the way only mothers can, where the face stays calm but the shoulders fall half an inch. Your sister says the goats have been planning another war. She says Emperor Nibbles was dethroned, but Stormbelly refuses to rule. You promise to negotiate a treaty. That night, you write a poem. Not for a record, not for duty, just for air. It reads, "The bird on the stone has no face, no direction. Still, it leaves a shadow. You don't show it to anyone. You just fold it and place it in your brother's old bundle, the one that holds the first character he ever gave you. Rin, endure." You read it again, like always. Then you light a candle, dip your brush, and prepare to write the next page of someone else's story. Because tomorrow, the magistrate will send another request. The taxes will rise. A roof will collapse. A name will vanish. And you will keep pretending. Because pretending is the softest kind of survival. And that is a story for tomorrow night.
The season tilts again. It doesn't arrive all at once, just in small shifts. A tighter wind in the morning, a different cry from the birds, the way shadows grow longer before the sun has fully risen. You notice it because you've learned to pay attention. Not to the loud things, not thunder or orders or grief that wails. You pay attention to silence, to changes that arrive without permission, to what's missing. Your sister stops humming when she works. Your mother folds fewer things at night. The goats start sleeping closer to the door. At the outpost, your work deepens. You're given access to a different room, the archive, though it's too grand a word. Really, it's just a room with sealed boxes, old scrolls, census copies from past dynasties, and records of families that have long since disappeared. You sit with them, unrolling time. There's a scroll with a list of names from 70 winters ago, each marked in faded ink, sorted by grain debt. You run your finger over the names, and for a moment You feel like you're touching ghosts. None of them are remembered in the village now. No altars, no incense, no stories. Only numbers and your quiet eyes. You think, this is how people vanish, not with blood, but with silence. You ask the clerk once, do we ever send copies of these to the families? He laughs, not cruelly, just sadly. They are the families. You don't ask again. At home, your sister asks if people can come back after they die. You say no, then pause, then say, only if someone remembers them. She nods like she already knew. Then she writes your name on the dirt floor, carefully. I'll remember you, she says. You say nothing, but you don't sweep the floor that night. One afternoon, a visitor arrives in the village. He rides a thin horse and wears a robe finer than anyone here owns. Not noble, not quite, but heavy with authority. He visits the magistrate, then calls for a new registry of land and people. Your name is on the list of scribes to assist. You bow when called, and he reads your characters aloud. Your brush is clean. Have you studied formally? You say no. He looks at you again, longer this time. Then says, you write like someone who's trying not to disappear. You don't answer. He doesn't expect you to. Before he leaves, he gives you a task. Copy a new list of conscripts for seasonal road repair. 3 boys, 1 girl, 2 oxen. You don't ask where they'll go. You don't ask how long. You only write the names you're told to write. One of them is the boy who used to help your sister carry water. She doesn't say anything when she hears, just sits by the goats, plucking grass and feeding it to the youngest. You sit beside her. She says, maybe if I write something beautiful, it won't feel so heavy. You nod. That night, she copies a single character over and over. Ching. Stillness. You don't know if she understands it, but she writes it like a prayer. The girl on the conscription list comes to you the next morning. She's barefoot, sunburned, and carries a scroll someone else wrote for her. A plea, a record, a list of reasons she shouldn't have to go. You accept it with both hands. You seal it and place it in the rejection pile, because there is no one left to read it. Still, when she leaves, you bow lower than usual. You hear your sister crying that night. You don't go to her. You just lie in the dark, watching the candle burn itself out. In the morning, she's already feeding the goats, as if nothing happened. But her red feather is gone. You don't ask. At the outpost, you're assigned a new scroll to copy. Not numbers this time, but a report on village morale. A phrase stands out. No known signs of unrest. You copy it exactly, even though you know it isn't true. Even though you are the sign. Even though unrest looks like silence here. That night, you dream of your brother. He doesn't say anything, just stands beside you as you copy names onto water. The ink bleeds. The names sink. You keep writing anyway. You wake with your hand curled around nothing. The goats are already awake. Your sister is humming again. Badly, but sincerely. Your mother is folding cloth, whispering prices under her breath. Outside, a bird sings. Then another. And then another. You rise. You boil water. You open your scroll. And you write, we are still here. 3 characters. 1 truth. You don't know if anyone will read it, or if it will matter, but you fold it, place it inside your brother's bundle, beside all the others. And tomorrow, the carts will arrive. The conscripts will leave. The clerk will ask for the same list you've copied 100 times. But tonight, you are not a peasant, not a scribe, not a child pretending to be a man. Tonight, you are just someone holding memory in your hands. And that is a story for tomorrow night.
The carts arrive at dawn. You hear them before you see them. Wooden wheels grinding over dry earth, the faint clink of chain, the rhythm of hooves moving without urgency. Your mother doesn't look up from her sewing. Your sister stops feeding the goats but doesn't speak. You step outside. 3 ox-pulled wagons, 1 soldier per cart, eyes half-lidded from routine. This isn't a raid, it's a schedule. The conscripts gather in silence. 6 from the village, 2 borrowed from nearby hamlets. Their belongings are tied in cloth sacks. 1 carries a flute, another a faded poem scroll. No one cries. Crying belongs to hunger, to fire, to loss that arrives suddenly. This is different. This is the kind of leaving that has been happening for hundreds of years, in hundreds of villages, under the same pale sky. The clerk asks you to check off names. You do. You check them off like fruit on a harvest sheet. Quick, careful, controlled. The girl from before steps into the cart without a word. You notice her fingers twitch, a habit of someone who's memorized a rhythm and is afraid she'll forget it. The cart creaks. The wheels begin to turn. No one waves. Not even your sister. You hold the list long after they're gone, not because you need to, because you don't want to be the first to walk away. The clerk eventually takes it from your hand. He says, "Come in, there's more to do." There always is. Later, you help inventory tools for autumn road repairs, shovels, baskets, iron chisels. A new shipment arrives from the county seat, thin rope, brittle ink sticks, 2 broken seals that someone might fix. You write it all down. At home, your mother is dyeing cloth. Your sister is cutting sweet potato vines and stuffing them into baskets. They don't mention the carts. You don't either. But when your sister comes in from the yard, you notice her hands are smudged with charcoal. She's been writing in the dirt again. That night, she places something beside your bed, a folded piece of gourd paper. It's 1 character. Gui, return. You stare at it for a long time. You don't ask if she means the girl, the goats, or your brother. Maybe all 3. The next day, rain returns, thin and cold, not enough to help the rice, but enough to ruin the path. You're tasked with updating the village rice quota. Less than last year, more mouths. You sit with the scroll for a long time. Then, with hands steady and eyes slow, you copy a slightly different number. Not enough to save anyone, just enough to buy a few days. You seal it with wax. Your first lie for someone else. You carry it to the courier station yourself. No one questions it. In the market, people say the northern province had a landslide. Others whisper about rebels in the mountains. No one names them out loud. You listen, nod, say nothing. A man from a traveling theater group passes through. He performs 3 scenes for the villagers, all historical, all tragedies. Your sister watches with wide eyes. Later, she asks, "Why does everyone die in their stories?" You say, "Because if they lived, we'd call them myths." She nods. Then she says, "I'd rather be a myth." You tell her she already is. She likes that. The goats are restless this week. 1 kicks over a clay jar, another eats half a census slip you left by the door. You don't scold them.
Some things are meant to disappear. At the outpost, the elder calls you aside. He says, "You've been riding well. Too well." You freeze. He smiles, not kindly, but not cruelly either. He says, "You know, they'll ask for you soon." You say, "Who?" He shrugs. "Someone. They always do. Literate peasants don't stay peasants for long." You think of the clerk, of the boys in the county seat, of your mother's warning, "Never stand out, not even in excellence." You nod and say, "I'll write worse then." He laughs, a dry, surprised laugh. He says, "You won't. It's too late. The brush already knows." That night, you write nothing. You just stare at your inkstone and wonder what kind of person the brush is turning you into. In your bundle, you find the oldest paper, the one with your brother's handwriting. Faded now, edges curled, the character barely legible, but still there. Ren, endure. You fold it once more. Then you take out a fresh sheet and write beneath it, "We have endured. Now we must become." You don't know what you mean yet, but the words feel right. You tuck it in the cloth, blow out the candle, lie back on your straw mat. The wind rustles the paper above your head, and far off, beyond the hills, beyond the roads, you hear a bell. No one else does, just you. And that is a story for tomorrow night.
The bell was real. You ask around, quietly, not urgently, just enough to feel the shape of it in others' silence. Most say nothing. One old woman nods and says, "It's a temple bell. Wind carries sound farther than memory." You thank her, though you're not sure for what. That night you listen harder. No bell, only frogs and the creak of old wood, and your sister's breathing, slow and curled against the goats. You lie awake for a long time. When morning comes, something is different. The village feels thinner, like the walls have pulled back, like the path is longer, as if the ground itself has grown tired of holding weight. Your sister wakes with a nosebleed. Nothing serious, just the dryness of the season, but she smiles through it, even as you tilt her chin and wipe the blood with the edge of your sleeve. "You always look like you're writing," she says. You ask, "What do you mean?" She mimics you, brow furrowed, hand midair, invisible brush. "You do it even when you sleep," she says. You laugh, but later, when you wash your face, you notice the crease between your eyes. It looks permanent now. At the outpost, the clerk hands you a new report. It's marked Reform Survey. Apparently, the Empire wants to know how many villages are developing useful scholars. You read the phrasing twice. It feels like being studied through glass. The clerk mutters, "Write what they want, not what's real." You nod, and wonder how many other boys are writing the same lie today. You fill in the form. Literacy? Moderate. Instruction? Informal. Potential? Unremarkable. Stability? Acceptable. You sign it. Seal it. Pass it along. And on the margins, you almost write, "This quill carries names that outlive food." But you don't. Because poetry doesn't feed anyone. Instead, you walk home slowly. You pass two boys hauling sticks for firewood. One coughs, dry from dust. You recognize him. His name's on the conscription list for next spring. He doesn't know it yet. No one does. Except you. That night you dream again. But not of bells. This time it's your brother. He doesn't speak. He just leads you through a village that isn't yours. The houses are taller, the roads stone. You follow him into a room filled with scrolls. He opens one and points. But when you try to read, the ink runs like water. You wake with your hands clenched and a word on your lips. Forget. You don't know if it's a warning or a wish. At dawn, your sister finds you sitting outside, barefoot, in the dew. She hands you a rice ball wrapped in leaf. You say nothing. She says, "Can I come with you today?" You hesitate. She's never asked before, but something in her eyes tells you she already knows how to hold silence. You nod. She walks beside you all the way to the outpost. Doesn't speak, doesn't trip, doesn't ask why the men inside look tired even in morning light. She watches you copy a scroll, then copy it again. She traces characters in the dust with her toe, then asks, "What happens if the paper burns?" You pause and say, "Then we remember by telling." She nods. She already knew. On the walk home, you take the long path, the one past the fields. You show her the old stone with no name, the place where a poet once carved a single line that still refuses to fade. When the wind forgets the mountain, the grass remembers. She doesn't ask what it means. She just sits beside it and writes it in the dirt. That evening you add it to your bundle, right beneath your first poem, right beneath your brother's scroll. You're running out of space, but not words. Never words. That night, as the moon climbs, you sit outside the hut and hear the sound again. Not a bell, a drum. Soft, distant, low to the earth, like thunder made of wood. This time you don't ask anyone. You just listen and wonder what you're becoming. A scribe? A witness? A quiet revolution made of ink? Or maybe just a boy holding silence like a secret too big for his hands. You breathe. The goats sleep. Your mother's shoulders rise and fall. Your sister dreams. And far away, someone is still ringing the history you're not allowed to write. But that is a story for tomorrow night.
The sound doesn't return the next night. No bell, no drum, only crickets and coughing. Someone's from a house nearby. But your body still listens. Every night now, your ears stay half awake, straining against the hush. Your mother says it's the weather, or nerves, or something else not worth naming. But you know what it is. You're waiting. For what? You don't know yet. But your hands have begun to ache when they stop writing. Your legs grow restless when the work is too light. The clerk notices. "You copy like someone who's trying to finish something," he says. You answer, "Maybe I am." He chuckles, but you don't. That week, 2 soldiers arrive. Not from the local post. Their uniforms are too clean, their boots too straight. They bring a box sealed in red wax and a scroll with 9 ribbons. Everyone bows, even the clerk. You do too. They don't speak to anyone directly. They point. They ask for names, and they leave with 4 boys from neighboring villages. Before they go, one of them, not much older than you, is asked for his family name. He hesitates and says, "It doesn't matter. I won't be coming back." You write that line down later, not because it's beautiful, because it's true. Your sister watches everything from behind the goat pen. She doesn't ask questions. That night, she draws 4 boxes in the dirt, then wipes them away. The next morning, your mother says there are rumors, a revolt near the western border, a scholar's village burned, a boy arrested for writing the wrong poem. You don't believe all of it, but you don't doubt it either. You begin writing smaller, tighter. You learn how to hide meaning behind repetition, the way the old stories used symbols to mask rebellion. A tree might mean power, a goat, a fool, a red feather, a wish you weren't allowed to have. You test your own limits. You write, "The field floods, but the stone does not float. The farmer smiles, but the teeth are borrowed. The emperor dreams of silence, but the ink is loud." You copy it once, then burn it, just in case. One evening, the elder stops you in the road. He asks, "Do you know what your name means?" You hesitate, then say, "No, only what I've been told." He nods. "It means the part of the river that runs underground." You repeat it softly, "Underground river." He continues, "Invisible, quiet, but it still moves everything." You thank him, and you carry that with you for the rest of the week. Your sister catches a fever. Nothing serious at first, just sweating, chills, a rasp in her voice. But you've seen what not serious becomes. Your mother mixes herbs, boils roots, lays cloth across her forehead. You sit beside her and read the Confucian primer aloud, even though she's too tired to understand. Sometimes she smiles when you pause. You whisper, "We are underground rivers." She murmurs back, "Then I'll be the part that loops back home." You press your forehead to hers and count her breaths. You don't sleep that night. The next morning, the fever breaks, not fully, but enough. She opens her eyes, whispers, "Did I miss anything?" You say, "Only a new tax." She says, "Again?" You smile. You feel older now. At the outpost, the clerk hands you an assignment you've never seen before. Compile the names of boys who write with clarity. You freeze. You ask, "Clarity?" He shrugs. "That's what the order says." You don't ask who it's for. You know. You write the names. You leave out 2. You pause on one. And when you reach your own, you hesitate, then copy it. Slowly. You don't know why. When you hand it over, the clerk doesn't look at it, just seals it and files it in the locked box. Your fingers shake for the first time in weeks. Back home, you hold your brush and can't write. Not even your name. Your mother notices. She places a hand on your shoulder. You whisper, "What happens if they choose me?" She doesn't answer. She just begins folding your cleanest tunic. That night, you lie awake, not listening for bells, not waiting for drums. You're waiting for feet, orders, a knock. But none come. Only dawn, and a sky so pale it looks unfinished. You get up, boil water, and on a scrap of paper you write, "If I am a waste, let the ink remember me." You fold it, slip it into your bundle, and feed the goats before anyone wakes. Because no matter what waits tomorrow, the goats still need feeding, and your sister will still ask for a story, and the scrolls will still wait on your desk. Because history doesn't stop. Not for fear, not for fever, not for you. And that is a story
for tomorrow night.
There is no letter, no soldier, no summons. Just the soft weight of not knowing. Days pass. The scroll you signed is gone now, tucked somewhere behind locked drawers and ink-stained robes in the county seat. But it still feels close, like a shadow just behind your shoulder. You try to forget it. You help your sister build a wind trap from gourd skins and string. She says she wants to catch the breeze and keep it for the hottest days. You laugh, but help anyway. The contraption whistles when it works. Sometimes it almost sounds like a song. At the outpost, your work slows. The clerk says the roads are too muddy now, and even the taxes must wait for the season to shift. You spend more time in the archive room, reading old village petitions, forgotten love poems, records of men punished for mispronouncing the wrong name at the wrong time. You learn to spot fear in handwriting. It's always the neatest lines, the ones trying too hard to be invisible. You think of your own lines and wonder how loud they've become. Your sister is better now. She asks if people in the capital sleep differently. You say, they probably sleep worse. She nods. Too many lamps, I think, and not enough goats. You agree. At night, she begins telling you stories again. Wild ones, about generals made of moonlight and tigers who write their own poetry. You let her talk. Her voice is a better lullaby than any old scroll. Your mother watches you more closely now. She doesn't say it aloud, but you feel it. The way she lingers near the door when you're writing. The way she keeps your good shoes near the mat. The way she's started mending your father's old satchel. The village has noticed too. A merchant woman offers you a free sesame cake. A boy from the next field calls you paper fingers. No one says the word chosen, but you all feel it pressing against the edges. And then, finally, it comes. A courier. Dusty, silent, holding a scroll with your name on the outside. He doesn't wait, just hands it over, bows, and disappears down the path like a man late to something he never wanted to attend. You hold the scroll a long time before opening it. The wax is red, the seal clean, the ribbon thinner than your mother's thread. Inside, the words are simple. You are called. Present yourself at the county school by the 7th moon. Bring writing tools, one spare robe, and no expectations. Return is not guaranteed. No expectations. You read it again, then fold it. Your mother finishes sewing the satchel that night. She says, "It's smaller than I remember." You say, "Maybe I'm bigger now." She doesn't smile, but her eyes crease in the corners. Your sister doesn't cry. She draws a goat on your scroll and writes, "If they don't like you, send me a message and I'll come punch them." You say, "I'll need that in triplicate." You leave at dawn. No carts, no farewell crowd. Just the same path you walked before. Dusty, slow, familiar. You wear your father's robe, your mother's patience,
your sister's stubbornness stitched into your sleeves. You carry only two things in your satchel: your writing kit and your bundle. Inside the bundle are 20 scrolls, not government reports, not copied classics, just your words. Words no one asked for. Words that don't save rice or fix roads. Words about goats and fever and fire and bells that no one else hears. At the edge of the village you pause. You kneel, touch the earth, and whisper your name. Not because you're leaving, but because you want this place to remember you. You walk, past the trees, past the outpost, past the shrine where the bird's head is still missing. You don't look back, not because you're strong, but because the road ahead deserves your eyes now. When you reach the school, they won't ask who you are. They won't know your sister. They won't care how many goats you fed or how many lies you wrote to buy someone 3 more days. They will ask what you know, and you will answer the only way you've ever known how. You'll dip your brush, steady your breath, and begin with silence. Then you'll write, "My name is a river. My history was never meant to survive, but I wrote it anyway. Because someone must. Because if you don't, no one will. Because even forgotten lives leave ink." And that is the end of your story. But maybe, just maybe,